One of the biggest traps we all fall into is believing that motivation comes before action. Now, it's one of those things where when you're starting, trying to change your life, trying to do anything difficult, you learn that it gets hard and motivation kind of runs out, and you get told, oh, rely on discipline. And you might search, like, how do I become more motivated, or how do I get myself to do the hard work? And they're like, oh, don't rely on motivation, don't rely on extrinsic motivation, rely on intrinsic motivation, or find your why, or whatever it is. And it's good advice. You need to have intrinsic motivation, you need to have a why, just a solid thing that you can point to. You can be like, why am I working so hard? Why am I working so hard for so long? Why am I going so hard? The CEOs you see that work hard for decades, relentlessly at one specific thing, they just have this unrelenting drive. They have a why. They do have a why that when you ask them, they can just point back to. But one part we miss is that we think that that's supposed to last a long time. And I think I've made videos like this. I might have posted one a couple of days ago, actually, where I've said you should find your why, and it sort of carries you for a while. And it will do that at the start. But once you get to a certain point, it doesn't matter. Like, you're just not going to be motivated to do it. If you ask anyone that's become successful at any point, like ranging from presidents to athletes to influencers, whatever it is, like, I know I can put like people, I can give you examples right now. Iman Gadzhi, I know I watched a video a week ago where he said, it was on his Instagram, when people asked, like, how do you carry on going for so long? And he was like, dude, they were asking about burnout, and he's like, I feel burnt out every day, but I just do it, right? And then when you hear athletes, again, it's the same thing over and over again, and we kind of just gloss over this. We're like, oh, they're just extraordinary, they're outliers. They do have like unrelenting motivation. It's not motivation, bro. They do just do it, and it's difficult for us to grasp that concept because we think like the more you do it, the more motivated you get, or you just think something's gonna happen, right? You just forget that. Oh, you just have to keep doing it. Even with the discipline, you just look at someone and you say, oh, they're a disciplined individual, right? You just write them off as they're a disciplined individual, and you're like, I'm not that. Like, it's difficult to instill discipline when you go into that mindset. When you look at someone, they say, discipline, I do it even when I don't feel like it, and you look at them and you're like, they're a disciplined person. But like, you really think about it. Like, I want you to picture this. The people you look up to, the people that continue going every single day, they don't feel like doing it. Most of the days they don't do it. They don't feel like doing it. They do end up doing it. And the point I'm trying to make is that the motivation comes after the action, not the other way around. Because we just seem to forget it. I want you to just think about it for a second. Like, we get told it, but you just ignore it for whatever reason. What happens? You watch some videos like, oh, do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it, all of that stuff. And then you wake up the next day and that alarm is looking at you, you're like, snooze. You just hit the snooze. Why? Right? Like, we just forget about it. I really want you to start telling yourself this should be the first thing you tell yourself every single day now. The motivation comes after the action. It follows the action. And it's not like something that's foreign to you. It's not like something you've never heard before. It's not even something you haven't felt before. I'm sure there's been times where you've done the work when you didn't feel like it. And then you start and you're like, this isn't so bad. You sit down to study and you're like, this isn't so bad. So the point is, it's very simple. Like, the motivation comes after the action, but I want you to make sure you keep reminding yourself every day, because we need to remind ourselves. I was reading I think it was on the Bible app. I was reading there was a plan I was reading about like renewing your mind and everything, and there was a line they said that stood out to me, where they said that it is like your prefrontal cortex, like the decision making, the logical side of your brain. It sets the goals, but then it's the limbic brain, which is more like the animalistic part of your brain, the emotional part of your brain. That's what achieves the goals, right? So the logical part of your brain sets the goals. The limbic brain is the one that achieves the goals, right? So that's the feeling, right? How many, like, again, the motivation, the examples I've just given you, where it's you've planned to wake up, and then when 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. comes, or 5 a.m., whatever time it is, it comes, you look at that and you're just like, I'm just gonna hit snooze, I'm gonna go back to sleep, right? That's the limbic brain, where it just overrides your logic. You just do what you feel like. That's the part you need to be stimulating most of the time, and you need to keep reminding yourself the motivation comes after the action. The motivation comes after the action, and just keep reminding yourself that every day. Make sure you hit subscribe to join the Self-Improvement Brotherhood, and until next time, I'll see you boys.